When Nora left Mavuno Hill, she wasn't just leaving a town, she was leaving a rhythm. Her mother had passed 2 years earlier, and her father's health was failing. Her Aunt Miriam, her mother's only sister, had insisted she come to the city for school. "There's nothing for you there, Nora. Come where opportunities breathe." So Nora packed one suitcase, tucked her mother's worn Bible inside, and boarded the early morning bus. She watched her town disappear in the mist, the old chapel steeple the last thing to fade. Aunt Miriam was everything the city celebrated, elegant, respected, and known for her devotion to the Glory Dome International Ministries. "You'll love it," she said that first Sunday, pressing a white lace dress into Nora's hands. "We worship with excellence here," Nora smiled faintly. Excellence wasn't a word she'd ever used for worship back home. Presence was. At the Glory Dome, everything shone. Glass walls, LED lights, voices fine-tuned through microphones. The choir looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine spread. When praise began, it was timed, 15 minutes precise. Hands lifted, lights dimmed, camera angles perfect. But to Nora, it sounded like performance. The worship was polished, but it didn't rise. It didn't tremble. It didn't break anything open. She missed home. Back in Mavuno Hill, praise was messy and holy. It began whenever hearts stirred and ended when the Spirit had wrung them dry. Sister Ruth would shout over the drumbeat, barefoot, her scarf sliding off as her voice cracked. The tambourine always came late, and children danced until their braids loosened. There, no one needed a program to enter the presence of God. Here in the city, it felt rehearsed. Even the amens sounded synchronized. Then came the sermon on kingdom seed investments. The preacher spoke of financial alignment with divine favor, of sowing into prophetic soil. Nora watched as envelopes fluttered into baskets like offerings to some unseen corporation. Aunt Miriam nodded, murmuring, "This is deep teaching." But Nora felt hollow. In Mavuno Hill, the word came after the heart had been soaked in worship. You were already trembling when the pastor rose. The word didn't chase your wallet, it chased your soul. When they said, "Come to the altar," you came with tears, not tithes. Here, she couldn't feel that. When the service ended, people rushed to their cars. Perfumes lingered longer than prayers. That evening, Nora sat by the window of her aunt's apartment, the city lights blinking like anxious thoughts. She opened her mother's Bible. Inside, a note in her mother's handwriting read, "The church isn't the building, Nora. It's the burning." The next Sunday, Nora didn't go with Aunt Miriam. She went walking instead, until she found a small community center tucked behind a row of shops. Music spilled from inside, raw and untrained. Curious, she stepped in. They were a dozen people, singing with no microphones, no lights, no schedule. The air trembled with something ancient and familiar. Their eyes were closed, their palms lifted, their voices unrefined. But heaven felt close again. Nora joined in quietly, tears stinging her eyes. She didn't care how she sounded, she just sang. In that moment, she knew. The city hadn't stolen worship. It had only forgotten how to linger. And as the voices rose higher, she smiled through her tears. This was the church she knew. The one Tasha Cobbs sang about. The church where the walls are stained with the sweat of their prayers. And maybe, just maybe, Nora was meant to bring that fire back to life.